I tell you, one thing that we are known for is doing really bad starts.
Yeah,
because I never know how to start them, so it's like we just get into them. So, All right. So, welcome back to Suspicious Minds. I am Burl,
and I am Wade.
Hey, all right, Wade. Are you excited about tonight's show?
Very much so. Would you like to tell everyone what we're doing?
I would actually, because what's nice is a little bit of a departure. We have reached into the mailbag. People have sent us in some questions they would like answered about Elvis, about things pertaining to his life, his legacy, etc. So we're going to take a little time and answer some mail. So a little mailbag episode for you. So pretty fun. Yeah. Should be fun. There's some good ones in there.
Very much looking forward to it. There's a lot to get into tonight.
So I think the way that we'll do it is, we'll just we got a list of them. We're kind of grabbing them out of the hat, so to speak. But in no particular order, we'll just start going through some questions. And maybe if we have some other questions for ourselves later on, we'll see where it leads. So
this will no doubt inspire lively discussion.
Let's hope it does. Otherwise, it'll be a quick show, don't you think?
Sure.
Yeah.
Which might not be a bad thing, but,
depending on if you're a fan or not,
Right.
So, all right. So, do you want me to read the first question? Would you like to read the first question? Should we just give the answer first, and then people can figure out what the question is? Like
sure.
Jeopardy style?
We could read it in unison,
Should we have figured these things out before we started recording?
Well, I think the important thing is to just, lob these questions up, and whoever wants to take a pass at it, let's do it.
Okay. So to start off, I'm just going to go ahead and read the first one, which is, what Elvis movie most feels like it was filmed during lunch breaks on a different Elvis movie?
So I interpret this question as to be like, does it seem like two movies that were made concurrently that are like very similar? So there was maybe we're filming this movie and then we're also filming a similar movie at the same time? Or is it just a low effort Elvis movie? What do you think what I would
say is a low effort. It literally could have been done. Yeah, he's just phoning in his performance. I already know which one I think it is.
Well, sure.
And I have two.
Yeah, well, go ahead and start us off.
Okay, so my first, it's Stay Away Joe.
Okay.
1968's Stay Away Joe. It's just, there is just nothing great about that movie. I think he sings an ode to a bull's erectile dysfunction in it, if memory serves.
Yeah.
It's just not a real high point in his career. Plus, it's just at the flagging end of the movies, and you can just almost see him eyeing getting out of this contract.
Right.
He's just like, man, I got one or two more movies left to do, and I just gotta knock these out, and I can be done with this. And it feels like that. Like
a kid in school, and it's the second week of May, and it's yeah, let's get the hell out of here.
Yep, pretty much. Senioritis. Yeah. He's got senioritis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. For me, I would answer this with Paradise Hawaiian Style.
Ooh, also not a great one.
Which, oh my God, probably the least essential Elvis movie. I think a lot of the ground covered in Paradise Hawaiian Style is covered in other movies. It's in our very first episode, we reviewed Girl Happy, and I had a complaint. It was like a travelogue, but all the actual Fort Lauderdale stuff was second unit. And we never actually see Elvis or any of the main cast interacting with it. It's all the beach stuff was filmed in a studio, and the water skiing stuff is rear screen projection and that sort of thing. And that's Paradise Hawaiian Style. It's this Hawaiian travelogue, and he's doing helicopter tours.
Yeah, he's got the helicopter service, yeah.
And just endless scenes where it's obviously just helicopter footage of actual Hawaii. And then they'd cut to Elvis, and he's in this little fake mock-up helicopter with rear screen projection, pointing at stuff. I don't know, man. That's definitely some real low-effort shit. Anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I would agree, also bad. Plus, he's a little puffy in that one.
Yeah, it's not one of the more svelte Elvis performances.
Yeah, which you can't expect him to be in his fighting weight all the time. But I think the other one, if I was going to say And this is a toss up. I think in the modern era, I would say Harem Scarum, just because it's pretty brain dead. But I might go Double Trouble, also really bad.
Sure, I will say with Harem Scarum though, at least there's like a colorful wardrobe and like weird sets, and it's kind of a high concept sort of a thing. And Double Trouble, I've seen it 10 times and I could not summarize right now what happens in that movie. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's just like he's on the run from a girlfriend who I believe is underage, right? Which is why he breaks up with her. And then for some reason people are trying to assassinate him, but like you never know why.
Right.
That's kind of what I remember about it.
And there's like everybody in his band is British because it takes place in England, but it
they didn't go there though. They're not there.
Certainly not. It's once again second unit stuff and just filmed on sets. So everybody in his band is British, and it seems almost like, what is that, 1965? Like they're trying to do like, hey kids, you like this British invasion shit? Well, you see Elvis, same stuff.
Yeah, I think it might have been later in 65, but it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, it's like mid to late 60s for sure. But yeah, I would say you might be right. I think the worst of the three would probably be Paradise Hawaiian Style. And I think for the reason you say, where there's just everything is just, like they never go to any of these locations. It's all just green screened or whatever in. It's just so bad that you can just tell they put zero effort into it. So there you go. That answers that question. I think we got it.
Okay, so let's move on to question number 2. Describe your perfect date with Elvis. And what era of Elvis are we talking about?
Well, I know how I'd like that date to end.
A little scotch and sofa.
Yeah, hey, there you go. Yeah, slip out of my clothes and into a dry martini. I don't know. See, I think it's a toss-up because I think young Elvis would have been a real hoot to be out on the town with, because it would have been renting out theaters and carnivals and all that kind of stuff. Restaurants, just rent the whole thing out and be a big group of people just having a really great time. But then, you look at the later Elvis, you could probably have meatloaf for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe watch old movies in like a private screening, and then go to sleep in a room that's cold as ice with aluminum foil over the windows, high on drugs, and probably with a white noise machine. So both things sound kind of good, depending on what mood you're in. Like the older I get, the more I like the second one, the later era Elvis. But
just ice cold bedroom, lots of covers,
Yep, pretty much. An ensuite bathroom, real high class stuff. I don't think I really answered that question very well. But how about you? If you were going to have a date with Elvis,
I would say on the cusp of fame, Elvis would be like the ideal dating Elvis, like 2021. He takes you to a county fair. There's Ferris wheels. There's maybe bumper cars would be a big one. Elvis participates in a cakewalk. Elvis eats so much cotton candy, he gets sick and has to go home early. Like, I think that would be like the ideal Elvis date.
Yeah.
Just a real wild, young country Elvis.
Yeah, plus I think what would be nice is you would kind of get Elvis all to yourself. Right. In a way that you wouldn't as an older person dating him, because then you're kind of dating him and his fame. Plus, young Elvis, you get to meet Gladys. Probably
That's
get
true.
Some like pretty good home cooking, because you're gonna get introduced.
Sure, absolutely.
Get a nice cold glass of milk. And as we discussed earlier, Gladys might have been one of the people that started him on like the peanut butter banana sandwiches. Get some of that going.
Sure.
Man, it'd be fun. That'd be great.
All right.
So, yeah, I think that'd be the way to go. Early Elvis. So
sure. County fair.
County fair Elvis. Here's another one. Do you think Elvis ever had an alien encounter?
Short answer, no.
Yeah, but he did like watching the moon launches. Catching a launch.
Sure, get a hot launch for himself.
Yeah. I would agree, probably no. But later era Elvis, he might have thought he saw something. Mm-hmm. You know, he probably had some stories about it. But I think you'd hear about it. I think it would wind up in one of the books. Mm-hmm. If he thought that there was an alien encounter, or like he thought he saw a spaceship or something like that.
Right. And this is, assuming that aliens are real and have visited Earth.
Right.
Though I will share a brief anecdote about somebody that Elvis associated with, Richard Nixon. Mm-hmm. There's this kind of famous story that in the early 70s, Richard Nixon had Jackie Gleason over. And both Nixon and Jackie Gleason are like huge drunks, so they're just getting shit-faced. So it gets to be like pretty late, and Nixon says to Jackie Gleason, hey, do you want to see all that alien shit that we have? And Jackie Gleason's like, sure, let's do it. So Nixon shows him all this like Area 51 stuff and wreckage and the alien bodies and all of this. And it just like rattled Jackie Gleason to his core. Just like, oh my God. But he was also blind drunk at the time. But later in his life, later in the 70s, he designed a home to be built based on what he saw from the alien designs, what he was able to remember.
That's crazy.
So it's entirely possible that, if the friendship between like Elvis and Nixon had taken off, which it really didn't, they really only met that one time. I think, but maybe not, because Elvis wasn't a drinker.
Yeah, he really wasn't much of a drinker. And talking about Jackie Gleason, strange thing, when I was researching crazy eating habits and whatnot, his name came up. He had a very bizarre topping for pot roast. Mm-hmm. And I would literally give you $100 if you can guess what it is.
Well, I'd sure like to have $100, but I don't know. Grape jelly.
You're not far from it. A scoop of vanilla ice cream.
On a pot roast.
That is what I read in this thing. Would you believe? Yeah. But no. That's true.
Cook it?
That's true. That's according to sources. That was one of the things he liked on it.
Like before you cook it, or as it's being served?
No, like as it's served. So to serve it, you serve it and then scoop ice cream.
I don't like any.
Why wait for dessert?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Just have dessert with your meal. Just time saving.
Those Hollywood types.
Well, here's the thing: if the aliens are coming, you don't have time for courses. Like you got to get the calories in now, so you could go and run from them or do whatever you're going to do. So I don't know. Smart thinking on Jackie Gleason's part, I think.
Haunted for the rest of his life by what he saw.
I would be too. I'm haunted just hearing about he and Nixon having dinner together. So our next question is, who is a current popular singer that you would like to hear Elvis do a duet with?
Oh, man. The hard part is name a current popular singer.
Well, the way I kind of thought about this is like, who would Elvis want to do a duet with? And I think, as we both know, not the biggest fan of sharing the spotlight. Not really his thing. Really. Didn't really care to do it. I think the closest we ever really got to him singing a duet is probably Viva Las Vegas with Anne Margaret, right?
Yeah. They trade some lines in at least a couple songs there.
Yeah. So as far as like current singers, and I'll just say like singers 2000s-ish, if he was around today, somebody he would have liked, I think he would have liked to sing with somebody like Amy Winehouse.
Okay,
maybe.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think he would have liked like her style. I think he would have liked that. And then I think the easy ones to think of are like who would kind of align with his thing, which I think, maybe like a Taylor Swift.
Okay, yeah, I could definitely.
Or maybe even Miley Cyrus, but, maybe not that. Mm-hmm. And then I don't even know if he would sing a duet with like a male singer.
Yeah, I just can't picture that.
But I had this idea. So there's a guy, he was in the band Pulp. And I think Elvis would like the style of song that he does, because he's kind of sings some real minor key kind of stuff, like sad songs. This guy named Richard Hawley, if he were to do it, but I just don't think he would. But it would be like an old style, like, Elvis acoustic kind of thing, singing a song with him. But then I thought would be really fun is several years ago, there was Willie Nelson, Leon Russell, and Ray Charles, and they're doing Song for You. And it's like, yeah, add Elvis into that mix. Man, that'd be like that $1 Million Quartet kind of thing, you know?
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. You know, I'd be hard pressed to say like, oh, Lady Gaga. Like, I think you'd take one look at her stuff and be like, there's no way. I'm not interested.
Yeah, but you know, she does all kinds of stuff too. She does like a modern pop thing, but also kind of more of a classic.
Sure.
You know, like
with Tony Bennett and all that stuff. And I agree. And I'm not against her or anything like that. I just don't know if like Elvis would gravitate towards her.
No, he probably wouldn't be like super interested. I think it would be interesting if there would have been an Elvis Presley, Elvis Costello duet.
Or like Elvis sings Backrack. Burt Bacharach.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
But,
or Elvis and Elvis sing Backrack. Because I think Elvis Costello did like a Burt Bacharach album, right?
Yeah, he's definitely done that material. It's just, I don't know. Now that I think about it, like outside of the name gimmick, you know, Elvis and Elvis, like, I don't think Elvis would have liked Elvis Costello much at all. I don't think he would have found much common ground with that guy.
When did Elvis Costello's first album come out? I mean, he would have maybe been aware of him if there was another Elvis on the scene.
Was it like 77?
Yeah, it might have been like pretty late in Elvis's life.
If not, like after he died, maybe like right before.
Yeah. Let's not look it up, though.
Yeah. Let's not bother to look it up. Who cares?
Yeah.
We're not talking about Elvis Costello.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this isn't the Elvis Costello show. So,
wouldn't it be weird if you thought that was what this show was and it just took till now to figure that out? Like, they're talking about Elvis Presley.
I bet there's one listener that doesn't know yet still. Like, even after us saying this, still probably is only like half tuning in.
Right.
Like, it's probably on a treadmill somewhere. It's just like trying to like block out, walking out like a 10% incline.
Just like muttering to himself, like, these guys don't know anything about Elvis Costello. Let's move on to the next question. What current movie series do you think Elvis would have been the star of if he were alive today?
I'm going to go Sharknado, the Sharknado series.
Ooh.
That'd be pretty good.
Right.
Or like maybe like an Anaconda type thing.
Yeah, I mean, the star of a series. I don't know. I just kind of don't see him sticking to one thing and doing like a bunch of sequels.
Plus, I think that like he was already basically in a movie series playing a guy named Lucky or Rick or Rusty. He basically played the same role over and over again, which is, you know, I don't know if he'd be interested in that as much.
No. Then again, the way things played out is that if he started doing movies again after the age of 42, they would have been like completely different kinds of movies than, you know, when he was like in his 20s and 30s. So one definitely could speculate he would go into like some sort of badass urban vigilante sort of, you know.
Ooh, like a Death Wish kind of thing?
Like a Death Wish thing, but like if Charles Bronson also did like light karate, you know?
Yeah, I wonder if he'd be like a RoboCop kind of guy.
Yeah, there's no way he'd wear that shit all day.
You're probably right. Plus, you're covering up the moneymaker.
Exactly.
Doing that,
exactly.
You know.
Yeah, I could definitely see, you know, like a revenge vigilante pseudo martial arts type of thing happening with him. But, you know, he would create his own series. There is no current movie series that I think a 80-year-old Elvis Presley would like star in. Maybe John Wick.
Yeah, there you go. John Wick. There you go. Solved.
There it is. It's John Wick.
It's John Wick. It was John Wick the whole time.
With an 80-year-old protagonist.
Yeah. We get 100 points for that one. So our next question is, if Elvis had the same life, but he was a musician today, would he be canceled? Do you want to take a crack at this first? I'm trying to think.
I think what this question is alluding to is, would Elvis be accused of like cultural appropriation in 2023 and be canceled for that? Or maybe he's talking about the like dalliances with young girls and whatever. But I'd like to think that a 2023 Elvis probably wouldn't be like as mixed up into that as he was. In the 50s, I really don't think Elvis would be like canceled for cultural appropriation. And then there would be the question of what kind of music Elvis would be making today if he just were to suddenly appear.
My answer would be doubtful. Because I think the other thing, there's two things. I think you're right. It's cultural appropriation. But the other thing is Priscilla and how that all started. But the thing is, he did wind up marrying Priscilla. And I think that he would have just been very good at hiding the fact that like a 15-year-old girl was living in his house that he wasn't married to. And finally, I think the other thing about him would be also his drug addiction, which I think would have been much harder to hide in this day and age, because everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody can record something you're doing. But the thing is, now there are more avenues for it, and there isn't a stigma so much for it. So you're right. I don't know what his career would be like. Is there really a rock star? Like a singer who doesn't write their own songs, rock star? I can't think of somebody that does that.
No, not now. I mean, doesn't even Justin Bieber write his own stuff?
I think he does. True? Yeah, I think he writes some of it.
Well, good for him.
Here's the thing. He takes credit for it, I would imagine.
Sure.
Even if he doesn't. Maybe that's part of it. You just got to like sit in a room with other people while they're writing it, and then you get song credits.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking that a 2023 Elvis, who was like, 21, 22, would have grown up in the era that we exist in today and would know how to navigate it. I just don't think dropping a like 1950s Elvis into today and having him navigate that, it's just like the way that Elvis lived his life. I mean, he had like a 15-year-old girl living in his home when he was like at the height of fame. And
yeah, there might still be a 15-year-old girl living at his home.
There might still be.
There might still be one. Who knows?
But, stuff like Elvis.
In accordance with his will. Like, every year he just replace a 15-year-old girl.
Right.
Yeah.
It was in his will, a beautiful bird in a gilded cage.
Yeah, that's how he liked it.
That's what he wants. That's his dying
what
wish.
Elvis wants, Elvis gets. So,
but the kind of celebrity he was, and then in between projects, in between movie shoots and public appearances, Elvis would just like eat like a crazy person and balloon up, and then it would be like 6 weeks before he has to do something, he'd go on the crash diets and stuff. But in this day and age, everywhere he went, people would be like taking photos all the time, and there'd be like all this media speculation, like, what's with this crazy weight gain? And basically, my answer to this is no, he wouldn't be canceled. He'd be fine.
He'd be fine. He'd be okay.
Whatever music he chose to do.
So our next question is, do you think Elvis was any good in bed? Or was he kind of a drip in the sack? Plus, what kind of deodorant did he use? Spray, bar, roll-on, or crystal? So I think the first part of that, I'm going to go early years, no. Hollywood era to like 1973.
Sure.
Probably pretty good. Probably hold his own. And then anything post 73, like 74 on, no.
Yes.
And then the second part of the question, I'm going to say early years, like a bunch of cheap cologne. And then sometime in the 60s, I'm going to say he switched to a spray, which was probably Brut by Fabergé. That's what I would guess. How about you? What do you think?
First part of the question, I would pretty much go with what you were saying. Like, young Elvis, like when he's doing his humping, not good at it. Like basically all young men. But then just the sheer volume, I think definitely when he was feeling young and spry and healthy throughout the 60s. Yeah, I'm sure he could definitely lay it down. As far as deodorant goes, I think probably from the day he first encountered it until the day he died, I see like a real strong spray deodorant vibe from Elvis.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I think he would have really enjoyed some sort of like push button instant gratification type of situation. Like a bar, roll-on, no way. Crystal, I mean, maybe Larry Geller got him to try it a couple times. But no, I think he was like a spray bottle right guard dude.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, right guard. Yeah, any of that Brut, any of those for sure. Yeah, whatever a teenage boys' locker room post-gym class, that kind of spray-on stuff, like that's probably the scent of his life. That's my 2 cents on that one.
Well, let's move on to the next question. Obviously, we're all sad that Elvis died as young as he did. I'm sure we've all contemplated the wasted potential in things that could have been: film roles, musical collaborations, tell-all memoirs, etc. However, I think an argument can be made that death was the best thing that could have happened for Elvis, cementing his legacy when and how it did. Think about how many of our heroes have gone on to disappoint us. For example, Brian Wilson's fully realized version of Smile in 2004. Michael Jordan's career with the Washington Wizards, Steven Seagal's baffling relationship with Vladimir Putin. You get the idea. If Elvis were still living, in what way or ways do you think he would have let us down? Or maybe a less pointed way to put it is, what do you think his most likely missteps would have been had his career continued past August of 1977?
I don't know if it would have necessarily been missteps, but I think that he would have really gotten lost in the 80s through like the mid-90s. He would have had to completely reinvent his career, which he didn't seem really capable of doing. And at the time, he was, was on a lot of drugs, all that kind of stuff. We all know that. But until he cleaned up his act, I don't know. I think the thing that probably would have happened is that he would have had to do things for money. And I think that would have tarnished him. Mm-hmm. So the idea being that he would maybe do a commercial or make like a special appearance somewhere, like at a mall opening or something like that. And since I don't know what his album sales were at the end of his career, I know they weren't as obviously as good as they had been. And I'm not saying he's going to have like a Roy Orbison sort of like disappearance either. But if he wasn't selling rock albums, he might have just gone totally gospel for a while, for several albums. Mm-hmm. But then again, I think mid to late 90s, there's Unplugged is happening. I don't think before that, in the 80s, I don't think he would have gotten any play on MTV. I mean, I know the Monkees did around 86. I think they started re-showing their old show, and that kind of gave them a bump in their career. But I don't see that happening for him. Like, I don't see them putting on his albums. Everyone's like, oh, man, Stay Away Joe's on. Let's all get together and watch that. Or Paradise Hawaiian Style, either one of those. But I think something like an Unplugged, like the way like Kiss got back together. If you can imagine like Elvis with like some old bandmates in the round, like 68 style. I can see that happening later on. But I think the big thing would be him just overcoming his addiction. Especially in the 80s and 90s, I think that would have been a big letdown for his fans to find out that he was addicted to drugs. And I think that there'd be a long road back for him. I think that would be my answer.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot to think about here as far as what was going on after his death, like the music scene of like 78, 79, like what was popular and like what would have worked for Elvis. A couple different things. Like, I don't necessarily think power pop would have been a direction he went into, like the whole like Cheap Trick thing. There's a lot of real kind of like polished Nashville country, pop country that was like pretty big in the late 70s. I'm thinking, once again, got to bring up my boy Eddie Rabbitt and stuff like Alabama. And it's like kind of pop country with a little bit of a rock edge. I could definitely see Elvis fitting himself into that world. Once again, it would be like trend hopping and be disappointing. But what do you think about if Elvis had to like drop out of public eye in 77, had he lived, fight some demons, get back into shape, kick drugs, and then like reemerge after like a few years of silence in his late 40s when the Stray Cats are hitting, and be like, once again, I'm going back to my roots, but with like kind of like more of a grit to it, like an 80s rock edge. I mean, is that possible?
It's hard to say if he would have done it right, because he was so used to the big band. And I feel like if he had gone back to a rockabilly sound, it would have been a rockabilly sound with like synthesizers and horns and like, background singers, which really doesn't work. So that might have been a huge letdown, because I think he probably would have screwed that up if that's what he tried to do.
What if Elvis joined the Cramps?
There's just, I mean, obviously that wouldn't have happened, but Yeah, I mean, it would have been awesome, but I don't know. I think he's just too big. He's not a band guy. It's Elvis and then the guys he's playing with.
My final answer to his most likely missteps is I think he would have gone into like pop country in the early 80s and then kind of like, with all due respect, into like Kenny Rogers territory.
Okay.
And that's probably where he would have found his sweet spot. And as a result, I don't think he would be considered much bigger than Kenny Rogers today if he'd had like another like 30, 40 years to kind of like tarnish his legacy.
I agree. Yeah, it would have been, oh yeah, there was this guy Elvis who was big at this point, wore jumpsuits through the 70s, kind of screwed it up, made a couple appearances on like Miami Vice and did some weird commercials in the 80s and 90s, tried to come back as a rockabilly guy. That didn't work. Yeah, it would have just been a long road back from there. I agree. Yep.
But then again, I could also see spending the 80s in the wilderness, but then in the early 90s, reemerging with producer DJ Double R, Rick Rubin.
Yeah,
reinventing himself, a Back to Basics record. 23 Elvis, 80 years old. He's like headlining Bonnaroo.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, not like the 80s Elvis with Mutt Lange. Mm-hmm. That would have been like the Def Leppard sound, like electric drums and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, actually, that actually sounds great to me. Elvis and Mutt Lange working together. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Could be good. Could be pretty good.
Could be good.
Let's see. Well, let's write him a letter and see if he'd be interested.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Mutt Lange did Back in Black.
Yeah, that's true. You are right.
That is a great sounding record.
Agreed. So now let's go to a next question, which is, given your interest in Elvis cuisine, what do you think Elvis's favorite fast food chain would be?
This is a very good question. I am going to say, like off the top of my head, I think Elvis would have been really into Steak and Shake.
I agree with that. I think, and I even talked about the last question, I think he would have done commercials for it.
For Steak and Shake?
For Steak and Shake. Yeah, it's awesome. And it's totally the style. It's basically the era of his 50s rise to stardom.
Right. There's a lot that what goes on at Steak and Shake he would have been like very comfortable with, the skinny burgers and the shoestring fries and like the milkshakes and stuff. And like they serve it on like actual plates and whatnot. Yep. Yeah, he would have felt at home there.
Yeah, counter service, all that stuff. Oh, yeah, he would have loved it. And the booths and everything. So I'd agree with you. Like, if any of them, it'd be Steak and Shake. I think a close second, not a close second, but second place would probably be Hardee's. And I'm basing that solely on the biscuits.
Okay,
With like breakfast biscuit sandwiches, I think he would have gone totally ape for those.
Yeah. And just as a side note about Hardee's, what was the deal in the 90s where they were pretty much a fried chicken place?
I don't know. Maybe they were trying to get Elvis into them. Like they were just like, if Elvis is alive, we're going to weed him out and get him in here.
But,
can't escape us.
No, they cannot. But just a message to our younger listeners. Hardee's made fried chicken in the mid-90s, and it was excellent. It was like the best fast food fried chicken. I mean, am I wrong? It was
really good, yeah.
That was pretty much what Hardee's was in the 90s, where they had like a couple of courtesy burgers, here and there on the outskirts of the menu. But it was like a fried chicken and biscuit place, coleslaw, baked beans, that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's wild.
Yeah, I was going to say, courtesy burger, I think was your nickname in high school, wasn't
it? Yes, it was.
Yeah, okay.
It's on the back of my softball jersey. So I do agree, like Hardee's, no matter what form they take, be it the big burger chain with biscuits or the fried chicken version of Hardee's. Yeah, I think Elvis would have been like totally down with that place.
For sure.
Can you think of anything he would not have enjoyed?
I have a feeling he wouldn't be into Taco Bell that much.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And that's funny. We did that episode about Elvis cuisine. Have you ever seen any evidence that he ever ate anything Mexican?
No, I haven't. But the big like salsa wave didn't hit until like the 80s here.
Sure.
So it probably just wasn't really much on his radar. And it's not like he traveled abroad, or not that he didn't travel abroad, but he didn't like perform abroad a whole lot. So probably not a thing he had much of.
But there was, mass market Americanized tacos available at least since like the early 60s.
Sure, but probably not something he'd be into. How long did he eat meatloaf for? Like in a row?
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 8 months.
Yeah. So, if that's what you're doing, it's not like, let's try something different. What about these tacos I've been hearing about?
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that's what's going on.
Here's another question. Did Elvis ever eat pizza? Have you ever even heard about that?
I don't know.
Isn't that weird?
Why did these questions not come in? Yeah, we got to do all the legwork on these. I didn't look that up. I don't know.
Like Elvis is aware of Italian food, obviously. There's the spaghetti sauce recipe, or at least I did. So I could also see Elvis being into like fazoli's. Do they have those where you are?
I hope not.
Like the big gross spaghetti buckets.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I'm aware of them. I bet he would have been like a real like stuffed shells and all that stuff. I bet he would have really liked those.
Could have gotten down on that stuff for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Like a big Italian sausage lasagna.
Man, he would have dug that for sure. Wow, man, now I'm hungry.
Yeah, me too. But just like Elvis eating Pizza Hut, I don't know. I can't see it.
That'd be weird. I bet he would order all the weird toppings if he got it.
Like, what would the weird toppings at a Pizza Hut be?
Well, I think it would be, for him, it would be hamburger would probably be one of his toppings. Black olives, green peppers.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. What else would be a weird one? And maybe like ham. I bet that would be an Elvis pizza right there.
That actually sounds lovely.
It doesn't sound horrible, but I'm just saying, like, it doesn't sound like a traditional. I don't think he would get like a pepperoni kind of thing or like sausage and mushroom kind of thing. So that would be my guess on that.
Sure. But yeah, good question. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
On to the next.
Yep, let's go. Let's knock them out.
Let me get this energy level up, like YouTube kids.
Yeah, there you go.
Here's 21 things only 90 kids know about. So next here, we've got bands like Kiss. Once
they
again,
always make an appearance
again.
on our show.
Here they are again. AC/DC, the New York Dolls, and Black Sabbath were musical contemporaries of Elvis. Things like the moon landing, the Charles Manson murders, and the Vietnam War were happening during a time when he was alive and a household name. Yet it's so difficult to consider all of those things as part of the same world. How is it that Elvis was ubiquitous and yet separate from the popular consciousness of the 60s and 70s? Or would you even agree with that idea?
So they were contemporaries in a sense, but his career started 15, almost 20 years before some of these guys. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't like a 22-year-old guy trying to like prove anything anymore. Like he had already kind of done that. And he had always kind of kept his opinions about politics and current events kind of to himself. He didn't, obviously, If I Can Dream thing, but he doesn't really come out and really say what he's talking about, although what he's talking about there. But he just didn't put that stuff in the forefront, where I think a lot of younger artists who wrote their own music, and what they were writing about was the Vietnam War and racial and social problems. So since he wasn't a songwriter, he had to express himself with other people's words or, with songs that he chose. And he kind of turned inward by like the late 60s, especially during the 70s. But like with all the ballads and stuff, that was more what he was interested in, was relationship problems and that kind of stuff. Seems to be more like what he was into. More than making a comment on whether the Vietnam War was good or bad.
Sure.
It was bad, by the way.
Yeah, it sounded bad.
Yeah, what's your take, Wade?
The thing is, really, by the time Elvis gets home from the army, he just kind of enters a bubble and doesn't ever fully reemerge from that bubble. Because, one could say, well, he spent the entire 60s on these like hermetically sealed movie sets with like the same group of people like for an entire decade. And then he goes back out on the concert stage and he can't help but to like city to city, meet new people, have new experiences, like blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It's like, I think the premise of this question, how he's like separate from the popular consciousness of the 60s and 70s, is putting like maybe a little too much on his shoulders. Because would you ask the same thing of like Roy Orbison? Like, hey man, Rolling Stones at Altamont, what do you got to say about that, Roy Orbison? And like, man, I don't know.
Right.
It's just, I'm just trying to like record albums and stuff.
Right.
There is no necessary obligation to like be on the forefront of culture for like your entire life. There's like the whole question of, obviously Elvis watched hella TV. So, you know, the moon landing, Vietnam War, the Manson murders, I'm sure Elvis was like well versed on all that stuff and had opinions that he kept to himself. But then when you talk about the bands, like New York Dolls, I can promise you there is no way Elvis ever encountered the New York Dolls during his lifetime, even though they were up and running by what, like 74 or something? 73?
Yeah, it was early 70s.
73? Elvis never heard about that shit. AC/DC, Elvis never heard about that shit. Though he would definitely have recognized Kiss, because I think even especially by 77, those guys' faces would have been on TV and on like magazine covers enough for him to be able to like recognize who they are. Also, with the same thing with Black Sabbath, is that Elvis and those two other acts, Sabbath and Kiss, would have been kind of cycling through the same arenas throughout the 70s. It's like, sure. Oh man, who was here last night? You know, this place like smells like shit. It's like, oh, well, Black Sabbath was here.
Well, here's the thing. You say that, but I always had this idea that he wanted to hire them as an opening act, but only based on their name, thinking that they were a gospel group. But obviously, and then them showing up, and he's like, oh yeah, this is not what I signed on for. But hiring them on name alone. That's just my theory. That's what he would have done. But no, I get it. I totally get what you're saying. I think that he had just sort of tuned out on all those things that going on in the popular culture, which is why he kind of seems like not joined with it at all. It's like he seems like he's his own separate thing.
And I think very much to his credit, like his public persona was never taking a public stance on anything. I don't know. Like, what do you think with that? Is the platform you have as a celebrity some sort of obligation to try to like speak your mind? Or what do you think? Is it the Elvis version where it's, I'm just here to entertain and I am not a part of the debate?
I think it really depends on the person. You know, if it's something you really are passionate about and you care about, then I think you weigh in. And if it's something you're like, you know, I don't really know how to go about this and I don't want to get involved in a debate on these things, then you just don't do it. I just don't think he felt it was his place to do it. And that's okay. You know, it's okay to have stardom and microphone and not get on a stage and rant about what's going on in the government. You know, you don't have to do that. So,
Right. And
I'm sure that he had seen enough people who did that and suffered consequences from it. And he's like, I don't want that to happen to me, you know?
Right.
I got Cadillacs to give away.
So ultimately with this question, it's hard to imagine Elvis being in the same world as like the moon landing and New York Dolls and stuff. But it's just like any older person when that stuff happened. It's like, I'm like older, I'm settled, I'm worried about the future. I mean, you know, being involved in all that stuff is like a younger person's game than Elvis was in the 60s.
Right.
And I just don't think he was ever really motivated to spout opinions or be a figure like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Though I will say I would have absolutely have loved to be in the room with Elvis watching TV like the first time he saw Black Sabbath. Did he instantly turn the channel? Did you sit down and like check it out? As a musical performer, you know, you would think, oh, I want to check out this new thing. Like, what are the kids doing? And all these detuned power chords and stuff. I don't know. I would have loved to be in the room when Elvis like saw that for the first time.
Yeah, I don't think he would have liked it at all.
No, he would have turned
the
sound down.
One bit. I think he would have just turned the channel up and like, not for me, click.
Right.
Or shut the television. One of the two, you know. It's depends on his mood that day.
Sure.
Now we can move on to our next question, which is, do you think Elvis ever snorted a line of cocaine? And what celebrity do you think could have persuaded him to do it?
Well, I mean, it is a fact that Elvis had what was essentially liquid cocaine.
Right.
And he would soak cotton balls in this liquid cocaine, and then he would shove them up both nostrils when he would do his vigilante superhero cop ride-along adventures. He would like get dressed in, his like superhero suit and like a turban and ski mask or like a bandit mask or something. Mm-hmm. And he would like have like a huge flashlight with him and a billy club, and you just go on ride-alongs. So yeah, he would have the cotton balls with like liquid cocaine in his nose when he did those. As far as like snorting a line of coke, I would imagine that would have been a very tough thing to persuade Elvis to do, because he would have recognized that as the bad form of drug addiction, like street drugs.
I totally agree. I think that he had a real hard line. There were prescription medications which he took for whatever he thought his needs were or why ever he thought he needed those. And then there was the other stuff that he did not do. I mean, he had a narcotics badge saying, I'm going to go out and find the people who are doing this and work with the government to put an end to it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say no as well. But yeah, I think, liquid cocaine on a cotton ball as prescribed by Dr. Nick. Yeah, man, all day long he would have done it. As far as if he could have been persuaded, man, maybe Angie Dickinson. I think she could have persuaded him. Yeah.
I would snort coke with Angie Dickinson.
Yeah. I don't know if she was into that. I'm going to assume everybody just, it was a little party favor, might have been into it.
My answer for this, Sammy Davis Jr.
Really? Oh,
because I
he
think
definitely did it. I mean, he was definitely on coke, but
Sammy Davis Jr. and Elvis were actual friends.
Yeah, I almost feel like Sammy probably knew enough about Elvis to be like, I'm going to do this over here, and I'm just not even going to bother offering it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I think if he was going to be persuaded, it would be a female.
Yeah, well, let me just describe the scenario. This is how it would play out. Elvis needs to get like hyped up for a performance or whatever. So Sammy Davis Jr. I'm going to give Elvis a line of coke. But Elvis is like, no, that's street drugs. And Sammy Davis Jr., he has a gift of gab, and he would have this rap where it's like, no, man, this is just medicine that you chop up and then you snort because it works faster that way. I think he could have convinced Elvis, look, take it from me, I'm a seasoned performer. I wouldn't necessarily say Elvis looked up to Sammy Davis Jr., but definitely respected him and probably trusted him. And if Sammy Davis Jr.'s goal was to get Elvis to snort a line of coke, I definitely think he could have pulled it off. Just explaining it to him that way. It's this is how you make the medicine hit the bloodstream faster. Because, Jackie Wilson told Elvis all kinds of weird shit that he kind of took to heart. The whole the salt pill trick on how to sweat on stage. It's you take a couple of salt tablets and then you drink hella water and then it just comes pouring out of you because the ladies love it. Okay.
Maybe he would have listened to him. I don't know. But I'm thinking it'd be a woman. I think Angie Dickinson would be a good one. Joey Heatherton, maybe somebody like that. That era.
Goldie Hawn.
Yeah, Goldie Hawn, maybe, yeah. But I'm just saying, chances are, no. I would say it'd be very unlikely that it would have happened. So
right.
So I think that brings us to our last one. I think our last question.
Yeah. All right. Last one. On what TV shows would you have loved to see Elvis as a guest star?
So the thing is, when I think about this, I always think of 80s stuff.
Sure.
Stuff that he probably wouldn't have been around to be on, but I'm just going with that if he had lived kind of thing. So I've got 3 in mind, and I'll just rattle them off.
Sure.
One would be TJ Hooker. Because he would love to be a police officer, dressed up as a police officer on the show. I think he would have got a big kick out of that. Also, the Fall Guy. Okay. Because I think he, something with hey, I used to be some Hollywood connection thing where he was the star that was doing the thing, who was just needed help from the Fall Guy. Or maybe even WKRP. But I don't know how he'd work into that.
As himself?
Yeah, maybe as himself coming on to promote something, and he's on, he's in town to do a thing. Yeah. So those are 3 that I think, and obviously just anything you'd love to see on. Just Miami Vice would be another one, drug kingpin. But I don't think he would even do that. I think he'd want to play the good guy in it. Mm-hmm. But did he ever really play against type?
No, because basically everything he acted in, he was the star of. Prominent co-star, as in Love Me Tender. But, there's TV shows that I could very much see Elvis being on and wouldn't have necessarily loved to see him do. But, I think the most likely candidates, had he lived, I think, I hate to say it, but a guest spot on Hee Haw. Which, actually, let me take that back. My grandpa loved to watch Hee Haw when I was a kid, in the 70s. In fact, I don't know if it was covered on this show, but the night that Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park was playing, the original air date, I was at my grandparents' house, and it was happening at the same time as Hee Haw.
Wow.
And there was a fight over the TV, who got to watch what. These snot-nosed kids wanting to watch Kiss, or my grandpa wanting to watch Hee Haw. The spoiler is the kids won, and we got to watch this Kiss thing, which even at my young age I was still disappointed by. But I've watched Hee Haw as an adult, and it's like, you know what? I'm totally into the show. I dig it. And Elvis on that show would have been great. Also, you could also see Elvis being on Love Boat.
Oh, sure. And everybody did those.
Yeah, it seems like an obvious one for him to have been on. But what I would really love to see Elvis do is guest hosting SNL as the host and musical guest.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
And another one that I think would have been good, Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, I could see him do that. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Where he's
like the rich cousin that comes into town.
Right, or rich uncle or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Like Uncle Jesse's long-lost brother who did well for himself.
Sure. Yeah.
And then he also does a song. But finally, the thing I would have most loved to see Elvis do TV-wise is guest star on the show Hunter, if you're familiar.
Oh, yeah. That would have been good. Yeah.
With Fred Dwyer and whoever his sidekick was. The Iron Cupcake, they called her. But there's an episode of Hunter in the first season where it's like Hunter goes up against this Texas hitman who comes into town for some reason. And on that episode, the hitman is played by Wings Hauser. The character, he wears these cowboy suits, but they're all black. And he wears a black cowboy hat, and he drives around in a Cadillac with the steer horns on the front. You know what I mean? Yeah, and he's got the 357 Magnum, and he's just this kind of sleazeball Texas hitman. And I saw that, and I'm like, that would have been perfect for Elvis. He would have loved to do that. He would have been 50 years old as the bad guy on Hunter. The only downside with that is that character gets killed at the end.
Yeah, that's too bad. But whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I can see that. I did have an addendum to earlier when we were talking about this. I just had an idea. We had talked about him being in a movie franchise. Mm-hmm. And although it wouldn't have been a current movie franchise, but him in Smokey and the Bandit.
Okay. So as Burt Reynolds?
Yeah, and the Burt Reynolds. And instead of the TA, he's driving the Stutz Blackhawk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he would have been
just tearing up asphalt with that.
Well, Smokey and the Bandit came out in 1977, so he would have been 42.
Could have whipped himself into shape. You throw a hat on him. I think that would have been great.
Man, I love this idea.
Let's do it. Let's write those.
Is Jerry Reed still Jerry Reed?
Yes. Jerry Reed's still Jerry Reed. And this is no slight on Sally Field. I think that would have been recast with Joey Heatherton. And Angie Dickinson. So it's two women.
It's two women.
It's two, yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
and
twins.
Then
maybe it's twins.
Right. And then during set breaks, Elvis and Jackie Gleason would talk about, all that Nixon alien shit.
Exactly. And then they might have to shut down production for Elvis to lose weight after Jackie Gleason teaches him how to put ice cream on top of a pot roast. And he's like, oh my God, this changed my life.
Yeah, I guarantee you Elvis would have tried it.
Oh, absolutely.
He's like,
I think he would have liked it. Mm-hmm. I think he would have really liked that. So I think we landed on a high note right there.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did the damn
with the
thing.
exception of the fact that we do have one segment we haven't done yet.
Oh, what segment is this?
Oh, it's Would You Believe?
God damn it! I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I know. Well, here's the thing. I kind of went back, looked through just ones that we didn't get to, and I think there's just there's just a few of them. I think there's about 5 or 6, so you'll be happy to know that. But it'll be over before you know it, Wade.
Okay. All right. Bring it on.
So, Wade, welcome to Would You Believe? And this week, it's brought to you by our new sponsor, which is Magic Crease Mobile Laundry Folding Service. Now, I don't know about you, but who has time to fold laundry these days? It's not me. Do you? Do you have time to fold laundry?
Not at all.
Okay. Well, now, with Magic Crease, you'll have time to not worry about a wrinkle. Do they wash clothes? No. Do they dry? No. Do they put your clothes away? Well, no, of course not. Do they fold them? Well, I think we've already established, yes, that they do. And finally, are they mobile? It's right there in the name. Yes, of course they are. You'll find wonders never cease once you call Magic Crease. I might call them now.
That sounds like a business I could use.
Yeah, I would use it. I'm happy to have them. I'll wait to call them till after we wrap up. Let's get cracking on these. So would you believe Heartbreak Hotel's Charlie Schlatter, who we referred to as the poor man's Michael J. Fox, actually played Michael J. Fox's brother in a movie, and the movie was Bright Lights, Big City. Would you believe?
I would believe that because,
That's true.
Yes, I've seen that movie and kind of weirded out by the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really weird. Phoebe Cates in there, too. She dumps Michael J. Fox right at the beginning. And then he takes up with Kiefer Sutherland. And I'm going to tell you, if your best friend in a movie is Kiefer Sutherland, and it was the 1980s, nothing good is going to happen to you.
Right. You're on the wrong side.
You're on the wrong side. All right, now, would you believe that Elvis inhaled a tooth cap while filming the dance scene of Jailhouse Rock? He had a capped tooth, bit into it, snapped it off, inhaled it while he was dancing. Would you believe?
I am once again choosing to believe that.
You are spot on, my friend. That is true. Yeah, absolutely happened. That was a weird one that I came across. I don't know why it didn't make it into whatever episode I had that for, but whatever, It's here now. Now you know.
You're right on.
About that. So be careful. If you've got capped teeth, don't dance to Jailhouse Rock. That's what we've learned.
Sure.
Just keep your feet both firmly planted on the ground and don't dance with a wooden chair. If you can't find a partner.
Sure.
If you can, still stay away from the wooden chair. All right, so this one was from the Aloha special, and I can't believe this one didn't make it in. But would you believe that birth rates spiked in 3 countries about 9 to 10 months after Aloha aired in 1973? So in the fall of 73, Japan, Thailand, and Australia all had spikes in the birth rate. Would you believe?
I don't know if I really do believe that, but I'm going to go ahead and believe it because I want to live in the world that something like that happened.
No, I made that up. That is false.
All right, yeah. That felt made up, but I just felt like duty bound to lose at least a couple of these tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Thanks for doing that. Thank you. Would you believe? Okay, so Elvis, we know he had made a bunch of television appearances. He starred in 31 movies, but he was only ever in one commercial for television, and it was for something called Southern Made Donuts. There's a jingle to it that he sings that says you can get them piping hot after 4 p.m. Southern Made Donuts. Would you believe?
I am going to say that I do not believe that, though I do think he did make a commercial. It's just if it were for donuts, I think I would have remembered that.
Nope, that's absolutely true. He did that.
Damn it.
Yep. Yeah. And the whole thing is you can get them piping hot after 4 p.m. You can get them piping hot. Southern Made Donuts hit the spot. You can get them piping hot after 4 p.m. Not a real catchy tune.
So
and apparently it was never aired.
But what I don't understand about that is is that something people want? Piping hot donuts after 4 p.m.? Isn't a hot donut thing kind of more in the morning? Or I guess, considering
Well,
there's
maybe you're working like third shift or
shifters.
something.
Right. Third shift.
Don't forget that those people are people too, Wade.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. They get to have piping hot donuts after 4 p.m.
I get up at 3 p.m. I go to the donut shop by 4. I got a piping hot donut. Here's another
Or maybe it's a
question.
way home donut. Maybe like in case like you're really craving something sweet after work, 4 p.m., pop right in. You're getting off work anyway. You're going to have a long commute.
Right.
Maybe you're just waiting for would you believe you'd be waiting for a train eating a piping hot donut?
Well, it's just like a piping hot donut. Is that really what people want? I don't know. I'm genuinely
That's
curious.
Krispy Kreme's like entire thing. It's like they're fresh hot donuts.
But like warm donuts, not like right out of the fryer grease. It's
I
like
think, okay, let's just say piping hot is probably not exactly what they are. Lukewarm probably didn't sound so great. But piping hot, I think they're just like, okay, well, we can live with that.
there's nothing like that slice of chocolate cake directly out of the oven. Like cut it real fast, throw it on your plate, eat it immediately. It's like what a psychotic person does.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The thing is, we'll probably never hear it because I don't think it ever aired. So, oh well, Southern Made Donut. We'll find out. We'll do some research, see if they're still open. They're still making Southern Made Donuts.
Could be. I mean, if they make a quality product, there's no reason to believe that they wouldn't still be around.
You got it. All right, and so this last one actually kind of came because we had a question we didn't have time for tonight, but I was looking something else up. And then this popped up, and I thought it was nuts. So we're going to, would you believe it? So would you believe that in the early 70s, Elvis saw the movie The Exorcist? And after a number of sleepless nights where Elvis stayed up all night listening to gospel music and refusing to go to bed, they finally figured out. So Vernon calls a priest and put him on 24-hour call so that Elvis could get some peace of mind and finally get some sleep. Would you believe?
I think there's no doubt that Elvis watched The Exorcist and got a lot out of it, in the way that it probably like freaked his shit out. But the rest of it, I don't believe. I don't know. I think Elvis probably, if he couldn't sleep, he had a pill for that.
Yeah, you're right. I made that one up. So There you go. You got it. So you got 3 out of 5. Not bad.
Wow,
Pretty
probably
good.
my best ratio yet.
Yeah, probably. I think some of them were omitted after kind of reading them out loud. I can kind of see why I didn't put them in. But some of the factual ones were pretty cool. I'm kind of glad I put them in. So, well, that was fun. Open up the old mailbag. I guess we'll close it up for the time being and wait for it to fill back up, and we'll do one of these again.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who sent in questions for us. We definitely appreciate it.
And keep them coming. Keep the questions coming. We love to answer them. A couple things we got to go over before we wrap it up is that if you do want to send us a question and you don't know where to send it, a couple places you can do that. You can email us at suspiciousmindspodcast77@gmail.com. And if that is just way too much typing of an email address and then more typing to type in the question, you can always phone us or text us at this number, which is the Suspicious Lines hotline. And the number there is 773-389-4276. And any place else they can find us, Wade?
If anyone's willing to boost our Facebook numbers, we're at Suspicious Minds Podcast with Wade and Burl. It's like a semi-abandoned amusement park style page. I need to work on it. But, you can get all the updates. You can slide into our DMs over there. But the real party happens at Suspicious Minds Podcast over on Instagram. That's where all the people are. That's where all the fun happens. Images updated almost every day. We respond to messages quickly. We have a lot of fun there. A lot of lively debate on our posts. So check that out if you can. And just those two things I'm in charge of, right?
As far as I'm aware of, yeah. I think that's all we would allow you to be in charge of.
Sure. Yeah. It's like you can send me out of the office with some money to go pick up like gum or something. Never lunch.
Not lunch. Yeah,
right.
Coffees maybe, but
Coffee,
we'll call ahead and make our orders, and you just pick them up and bring them back. Yeah.
Sure. Newspapers. Yeah. Don't trust me with any actual money.
No, I would never do that ever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got it. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. That was it was fun. I can't wait to do that one again.
One quick question for you, Burl.
Okay.
Just throw this at you. Do you think you could make it upstairs at Graceland before security caught you?
Present day me or like me 20 years ago?
Best case scenario, Burl.
With my trick knee? No. I would say if I paid a spry person, they could probably make it up the stairs, but they would, I think, A, be caught pretty handily, and then B, they would be banned from Graceland forever.
Sure.
So that's what I think would happen if you tried to do that.
Secondary question, do you think there's already security people up there?
I think that's where they nap, right? Like they just go up there and take naps, because that's where all the beds are. Maybe there's a break room.
I don't know. I could see authorized employees that do nothing but hang out up there.
Yeah, do you think there's just like a bouncer up there who just is like in a black t-shirt with a black sport coat over it, and he's like checking IDs, and then he's got like the velvet rope to let you in? I bet that's I bet that's a situation like you got to know somebody to get you. There's like a list. Oh, let me see Burl. No, I don't see a Burl here, and it's like I might be Wade's +1. And like, oh, here it is, and then they just go ahead. So I'm guessing, if you did get buddy with somebody in the family, yeah, maybe they might let you in. But yeah, I would be highly doubtful.
It's just one wonders if any Graceland employees at all ever get to go up there. Some sort of cleaning crew, maintenance crew.
Yeah, you gotta figure somebody goes up there and cleans it. I don't see Priscilla like putting on like rubber gloves,
right?
like cleaning up there. You know, I'm sure
because otherwise it's just otherwise it's just all like cobwebs and
like old gum wrappers and stuff.
Right. Cigarette butts.
Yeah, just like empty toilet paper tubes. Stacks of them. That's it. That's all that's up there. Oh, man. Well, I think we crushed it. I think we did it. We did what we set out to do. So once again, thanks for listening to the episode. I have been Burl.
And I still continue to be Wade.
We'll catch you next time. Thanks again.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. Good night.